Okay, let's talk about the Night Revels. Night Revels is coming tomorrow, October 14th. And I'm on my alchemist Night Revels farmer. And I love alchemists for Night Revels. I used to play the Fire Stork and love the Fire Stork. And the Fire Stork absolutely owns Night Revels. But last year was the first year in the Age of Alchemist that Night Revels was out. So I gave it a try, thinking that I wouldn't like Alchemist as much as... I like Alchemist, don't get me wrong, but for purposes of farming Night Revels, I didn't think I would like it as much as the Fire Stork. And turns out I loved it way more. Way more. So if you're looking for a Night Revels build, I highly recommend Fire Alchemist. And I think Fire Alchemist is superior to the Fire Sork for purposes of farming Night Revels. I want to make sure to add that qualifier because this isn't a Sork versus Alchemist overall comparison. This is just for, if you're going to make a Night Revels farmer, you're going to plan on do a lot of Night Revels, which I do every year. I'm going to be living in Night Revels, okay? And I'm going to be, farming out that key farming instance like ad nauseum. There's a few things that I really like about the Alchemist versus the Sork. But like I said, Sork's a great choice. If you already have a Fire Sork, just do it. It's not worth, converting over to an Alchemist or something like that. But if you want to make a Night Revels build, I recommend the Fire Alchemist and over the Fire Sork, and here's why. So the first reason is because the Alchemist... Well, if you played Fire Sork in the key farming instance, you know how valuable Meteor Swarm is, because Meteor Swarm shoots in an arc, and it's very convenient to go over the hilly environment that is the key farming instance, which is, the Delira's graveyard. It's kind of a hilly area. And so, sometimes when you shoot straight spells like Fireball and Delayed Blast Fireball, sometimes they just go right into the hillside and then do nothing. But Meteor Swarm arcs over those hills and hits the targets really well. Okay, well, on an Alchemist, which is throwing spell vials, all of your spells are thrown in a very nice arc, which is very well suited for the hilly environment of the key farming instance. In fact, while I would normally recommend Accelerate Spell, the meta magic feat, I don't recommend it for your Alchemist Night Revels farmer because you want that arc. See, what Accelerate Spell does is it makes your spells hit their target faster, but it also makes them go in less of an arc. And I really like that arc. It's like I said, it goes over the hills, hits the targets really well. So I don't even use Accelerate Spell for my Night Revels farmer. So every spell you throw is in an arc, which is so well suited for that hilly environment. So that's the first thing I really like about the Alchemist versus Sork. The second thing is an Alchemist shoots its spell vials like 1,000 miles right out of the gate. You don't need an enlarge spell. In fact, you can't even enlarge your spells. They have such tremendous range with all spells, with all spell vials, and that's so nice. You get the big arc, the long range. I mean, you can hit mobs from forever away, and that's so nice. And the third thing I really like about the Alchemist is they don't suffer from spell facing mechanics, okay? Now, so for those of you who like to play casters as I do, I know that you feel my pain about, all those times we fail our spells because we're not facing the target. And some of those times are just maddening because we're like, it's right there. What in the world? In any event, an Alchemist never suffers from spell failure due to not facing the mob because it doesn't matter where the mob is. As long as you have it targeted, it can be off to the side, it can be way over here, it can be behind you, literally off the screen. As long as you had it targeted, it will throw the spell vial at it. Okay, and so when you're doing the key farming instance of Night Revels, I'm just racing through that like top speed most of the time, and I want to fire and forget. But if I'm racing through, you like on my Sork, there'll be times where a mob might kind of move off to the side, or I might start to run past it, and then I gotta stop and turn around and throw my spell at it, and then I gotta keep going, and it really harshes my Zerg. But on the alchemist, like I said, it doesn't matter where the mob is. You're never going to miss it as long as you had it targeted. So if they move off to the side, if you run past it because you're zerging too hard, like you can still hit them, and it's wonderful. So those are the big reasons why I really like the Fire Alchemist over the Fire Sork. I think it's a more convenient Night Revels farmer than the Sork. The Sork is an excellent Night Revels farmer, but I do like the Alchemist. The Fire Alchemist better. So let's talk about that. I am doing just an iconic. So I'm only 19 Alchemist. And I'm 1 Bard because I'm doing Tiefling Scoundrel. And the Bard that has nothing Scoundrel, had nothing to do with my choice for farmer. It was just I need 2 more Tiefling Scoundrel lives. So, hey. Just that's why I chose it. So while the 20 Alchemist is going to be considerably more powerful than a 19 Alchemist, because, I don't have the capstone. That's 4 more intelligence, and that's, my multi-vial SLA. But here's the thing. Night Revels, it's not like it's Reaper questing. It's not even elite questing. Like, it's about the equivalent to normal questing or Slayers. Okay, you don't need an Uber build to own it. And I'm going to be just fine with 19 levels of Alchemist. I'm going to be just fine to absolutely wreck Night Revels. You don't need like some super uber build to be very successful. You just need the basics covered in your Bombardier tree, the basics covered with your gear, fire spell power, insightful fire spell power, fire lore. No big deal. You don't need to have optimized gear or have some super uber build going. You don't need to stress at all because, like I said, this is not high difficulty stuff. It's just Night Revels challenge farming. So I'm heavily invested in Bombardier. That's the nuking tree. And if you happen to be new to Alchemist, I do have a video, that has my, back when Alchemist first came out, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I gave my retrospective about after playing Alchemist for a few lives and a few different configurations. And I have another video that talks about how their reactions work, because if you're new to playing Alchemist, the reactions can be a little bit confusing at first, but it's actually really easy, and I break it down for you. And I'll give you some links to that. So the Bombardier is the nuking tree, and I have as many cores as I can with only 19 levels of Alchemist. You're going to want to get all the cores. It's going to give you more damage dice and stuff, caster levels. The crit line here, all the way up. This was, just because I needed to spend some points to get up to tier 2. I do have everything quickened, so I have efficient quicken. Alchemist can be a little spell point starved, so some savings there. I also have maximize. You might not even want to take maximize, because being a little bit spell point starved, if you sit there and maximize everything, you can run out of spell points really fast. So, if you want, you can just choose to forego maximize and just amp up your fire spell power. I did take it. Right now, I only have it applied to my 1 SLA. If you're doing a 20 Alchemist and you had access to the multi-vial SLA, you could apply it to that for free as well. The only other offensive SLA that you get is this single target thing, and I don't even use it. It's not even worth taking, in my opinion. If you want to take it, that's fine. I don't use it. But it did pick up maximize, so I went ahead and picked up efficient maximize. Hopefully, I can work it in on at least a couple of spells. I think I have it on for my multi-vial as well. A couple points of intelligence. Burning ambition. That basically turns my spells into dots. It sets my targets on fire, and they continue to take fire damage. This adds to your burning ambition die. Over here is your, it's more or less a fireball SLA, but it's a multi-selector, so whatever kind of nuker you're doing, whatever element you're doing, you can choose, a cold version or an acid version or whatever. But I'm doing fire, so I chose the fire version. Here you're going to get a couple extra caster levels with your red and yellow spells. Your red spells are your nuking spells, and your yellow spells are, well, in my case, they're nuking / crowd control effect spells like Vein Freeze and the Cinder Smoke are the 2 Guild Leaf spells that I have that are part of my regular offensive spell rotation. And +2 to Conjuration DCs. Every spell that you throw that's DC based on an alchemist is Conjuration and Transmutation. There's nothing else with a DC on the alchemist spellbook. And then this is, if you haven't played alchemist before, this is clutch right here. Weakening mixture, and you can choose whatever element. Once you get this, you no longer need to diversify your spells. Like normally as a spellcaster, you want to kind of diversify, like, oh, if I'm a firecaster, I want to have some, acids, an acid spell or an electric spell or something as a backup in case I run into mobs that are immune to fire. Once you have this, which you can get at level 12, you can make everything vulnerable to your chosen element. So I only need to worry about fire spells at this point. Once you have that, you can go all in with your chosen element, because literally everything except for the broken boss of Archon's Trial, which can't be made vulnerable by anybody, other than that one mob, you can make everything vulnerable to fire. In my case, even like an Iron Golem that would otherwise be healed by fire will actually take fire damage if I have that. So that's kind of the basics in the Bombardier tree. I don't really need anything else. If I was doing a more serious build where I was going to go do serious questing, this is not how I would have it. It's kind of a trimmed down version focusing on offense just for Night Revels. So that, for example, I could have, more MRR there. So if I was doing serious questing, I might want to take that. I would have 19 more MRR there, which normally would be very good. But for purposes of farming Night Revels, I don't care. Like I said, Night Revels is like doing normal questing or Slayers, and I don't need an uber R10 capable build to go farm Night Revels. Okay, the next, I just have a few points here in Apothecary. Mostly this was about picking up tier 2. This is immunity to magic missiles. If you'd prefer, you can get your immunity to magic missiles over here, and you've got my back. It's whatever you like. I picked up some extra spell points, and the first tier of the Cure Light Wounds SLA. And that was just, I needed to spend some points to get to here. Now I'm heavily invested into Harper Agent. Okay, with the big prize of being Magic of Austerity, which is free eschew materials. The Alchemist goes through so many spell components, and when you're farming Night Revels for hours and hours and hours, it's just ridiculous. You're going to go through thousands and thousands and thousands a day, and it's kind of, of a pain to keep going and buying more spell components. So out of convenience, I like to pick this up. And again, because we don't need an uber build for Night Revels farming, we can afford to make some convenient build choices here. I would never go for that on a normal build, but for Night Revels farming, hell yeah, sign me up, give it to me. Plus I've gotten 4 points of intelligence along the way. I've got 1 universal spell power there, 5 more there, and 10 more there. I got a few a few hit points. This will add to my enhancement bonus, my weapon, which adds the implement bonus, gets more spell points there. Couple skills, hey, that's spellcraft, that's 2 more spell power basically, and then I've got 3 more spell power there, 3 more there, and 3 more there. Alternatively, if you like, you can go into Fate Arc Illusionist heavily if you like that one better over Harper. I prefer Harper because I wanted to get Magic of Austerity. The prize over here in terms of free meta magic feats is enlarge. You cannot enlarge your alchemist spells anyway, so that would be useless. And you're not doing any illusion DCs. You sure as hell don't need greater color spray for Night Revels farming. So I personally prefer Harper Agent, but like I said, if you want to do Fate Arc Illusionist, knock yourself out. It's whatever you want. Over in the Tiefling Scoundrel tree, there actually was a little bit of synergy here because I've got fire spell power there, and there, and there. I mean, I've got 35 spell power out of the cores. Let's see, I've got some saves there, and then 10 more universal spell power wielding an orb or a staff. I do have an orb going right now. I don't know if I will as I advance through epic levels, but hey, I'm getting 10 more spell power out of it. So those are my enhancements. Take a look at the spells real quick. Oops, I didn't fill in my last 2 spells, but really I'm all in with the fire, and then I have elemental combination also as part of my spell rotation. I have a 6 spell rotation. Starts off with Vein Freeze. That has a freezing effect. It has a cold spell, but it has a freezing effect, so I kind of like that. Maybe I'll actually change that out, because I've been leveling up from 15 to 20, just kind of doing Zerg and R1s. In any event, there's my SLA, Fiery Obliteration, my Multi-Vial, my Cinder Smoke, Molotov Cocktail. These are all the AoE fire spells, and then Elemental Combination does 3 different random damage types, so it can do fire. It's poison, fire, cold, acid, and electric, so it's going to do 3 of those damage types every time you throw it. It's kind of like a mini Hellball or something, I guess, in a way. But, if you were 20 alchemists, you could just throw in the SLA of Multi-Vial, for example. But I don't have that, because I'm only 19 alchemists, but that's okay. I'm not worried about that for purposes of farming Night Revels. 19 levels of alchemist is going to absolutely own Night Revels. Okay, let's show you the feats real quick. On the spellcasting feats, I have Spell Focus Conjuration and Greater Spell Focus Conjuration. Mental Toughness, improved Mental Toughness. That's 2 more crit chance and a bunch more spell points, right? Meta Magic, Quicken and Maximize only. That is all. You cannot afford to throw a bunch of Meta Magic feats on your spells when you're an alchemist, so I would not recommend, beyond this, especially for purposes of Night Revels. Let's see. I don't think there's anything else. From my past life stance, I have Colors of the Queen and Energy Criticals, of course. And the other ones aren't offensive. For your alchemist feats, I have Alchemical Studies Pyrite, Advanced Alchemical Studies Pyrite, Insightful Courage, adds my intelligence modifier to my will saves instead of my wisdom modifier. Liquid Luck, that is evasion. I am missing one of these since I'm only 19 alchemists. If I was 20 alchemists, I would get one more of these. So you could go like, Alchemicals Studies, one of the ones that overlaps that would add more dice to your. I think there's another one that overlaps, like one that gives like to I can't remember. In any event, you can kind of take whatever you like for that. Or you can take saves if you prefer. It doesn't really matter. Like I said, don't stress out about it. We're just farming Night Revels here. They don't stack according to Stormtome. Like I said, don't stress. We're just farming Night Revels here. And that's the point of this, that it's an important takeaway that, this is easy content. This isn't Reaper questing. It's not even Elite questing. And you don't need to be Uber to own it. So let's talk about the Epic Destiny next. Draconic Incarnation. I wanted to have Energy Burst, so I took this line up. I don't need to worry about Energy Vortex. I won't be using that during Night Revels. Just a point of intelligence. I had 1 extra left over, so I put it here because my Fortitude saves were my lowest. There's 30 Fire Spell Power. And you're going to want to go up this line. I wanted to get Dragon Breath. And I didn't mean to take that. That's weird. That shouldn't be there. Oh no, that's, yeah, actually I did mean to take that one, excuse me. I was thinking it was the other one. Okay, It's a little extra light damage. There's a chance for a little extra light damage from my fire spells, so that's cool. And then I took precise conjuration. Remember, all your spells as an alchemist are conjuration and transmutation. Generally speaking, it's conjuration for nuking spells, transmutation for crowd control and insta kills, but it's not a clear differentiating line, because like, you know, Vein Freeze and Cinder Smoke are nukers, but they also have like, this has a freezing component and this has a blinding component. Okay, for my twists, I chose Empyrean Magic. It says when you cast a fire, light, or healing spell, you gain a stack of Empyrean Fervor. Empyrean Fervor is +2 sacred bonus to universal spell power and +1 sacred bonus, +1% sacred bonus to spell critical chance with all spells. So basically, if you're throwing a bunch of fire spells, which I am, I'm going to be running at like +20 spell power and +10% crit chance all the time. That's a great twist for somebody who's throwing a lot of light and fire spells, healing spells. Here's Flames of Purity out of Divine Crusader. It's 30 more spell power. Precise Conjuration out of Magister. That is not what I meant to do. I meant to do Conjuration Specialist out of Magister. I just twisted in something from the Destiny I was in. Okay, so it's Conjuration Specialist. Right here. That's what I want. Conjuration Specialist from Magister is +3 to the DCs of your Conjuration spells. Again, those are your nuking spells, your red spells, or Crimsonite spells. And then 15 extra spell power from Fey Form. Gear, not very important. I'm not optimally geared. Remember, it's just Night Revels. You don't need to stress about having the perfect gear set. But I'm going to show you some important components to what I'm using. I'm using the Esoteric Initiate set out of Sharn. So that's the Dusk Lenses, the Order's Garb, and the Ether Band. Now, the Order's Garb does have a Docent version if you want to play a robot. I have for my sentient weapon the Epic Scepter of Combustion. This comes from Keep on the Borderlands. You know, you trade a little ingot and you get a weapon from the vendor there inside the keep. That's all this is. So I've got big, for level 20, I've got big combustion and insightful combustion and fire lore. I also have this made sentient, but I don't even have it maxed out. If you can have a maxed out one at level 20, that's awesome. But, I don't have that. But I wanted to go up to 4 filigrees. It's just I don't know what it is, but this thing only has 12,000 sentient XP. No big deal. That's not too much. And that gives me a 4-piece Wreath of Flame set. That's 50 extra fire spell power from that 4-piece set. Okay, this is just a heroic leveling orb. This is not important. I'm not going to go over all the gear. So Esoteric Initiate, Scepter of Combustion for 20. I have the Silver Flame Talisman because I don't have the ability to cast Death Ward. I could use a clicky if I want, but really, I don't even want to take the time to throw a clicky. That's how, Zergy fast I want to do Night Revels. So I put the Silver Flame Talisman on because that's going to absorb any negative leveling that comes at me. Okay? And there's not really anything else super important at this point. I don't even have, a big Conjuration focus item right now. I just have Spell Focus Mastery +2. Here's my Intelligence item. It's only a level 15 item. Optimally, I would have something higher than that. Profane Spell Focus there. Not too worried about it. Again, I can't emphasize enough. Don't worry about min-maxing your build. You don't need an uber build to obliterate Night Revels, on a Fire Alchemist or a Fire Sorc for that matter. You are absolutely going to own it with this. And when Night Revels comes out, I'll be posting videos of that. A few years back when they changed the key farming instance from an open world thing to a private instance challenge version, I posted a video showing how you can, farm that out in 2.5 minutes. You can clear that out in 2.5 minutes. Because at first people were saying this isn't as good a key, this isn't producing as many keys as before, and I want to do a video showing you can clear this out fast. And if you're clearing out the key farming instance, every 3 minutes, You know, if you figure, you know, time to loot your chest, time to recall out and step back in, we'll call that 3 minutes per run. If you can clear that in 3 minutes per run, that's 20 runs per hour. You're going to get mega keys out of that. And it's way more than it used to be. But if you're taking 15 minutes to clear out the key farming zone, then yeah, it's going to seem slower. And thus the Night Revels build. Hell yeah.